שהתמודד ב-2004 על הזכות לייצג את הרפובליקאים בבחירות לנשיאות, ומי שמוזכר שיעשה את זה פעם נוספת, לא הפעם, השבוע הוא מבקר בישראל, ואנחנו תפסנו אותו לשיחה. הנה.
Hello, Donna.
Thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
Very happy to do it.
Well, this is another one of your many visits to Israel. Do you keep track?
You know, it's hard to keep track of how many times I've been here. I think it's somewhere between 16 and 19 at this point.
Wow. And this time I was wondering if you sense something different, the tension around the Iranian issue in the air.
I do feel that. I had an opportunity to meet with the Prime Minister. I've met with a number of other people, both in and out of the government, some who have been. It's pretty evident that this is a very inexplicable situation on the part of the Obama administration as to why that they are putting any pressure at all on Israel to not take action that Israel may feel it's in its own best interest to protect itself. Every country has a right to protect its own sovereign security, and that's really the issue. It's not that anyone wants Israel to take military action, but that's a decision Israel has to make. And if it's necessary for them to take that action to protect this country and its people, then the rest of the world should be willing to stand behind them and not question them, and certainly not to urge them not to do that.
So next week when Prime Minister Netanyahu meets President Obama, your advice to him is just to listen politely and then do what he thinks is right?
Well, I think he listens politely, but he's also, I think, absolutely got to make it clear to the President of the United States, as well as to the Congress, who I believe is very supportive of Israel and supportive of any action that Israel has to take. I think that's the American people's sentiment as well. But I think he's got to be very candid with the President of the United States that Israel will act in its own best interest. They will act according to what's protecting the people of this country. And frankly, what Israel does in keeping Iran from developing a nuclear device is not only good for Israel, it's good for the United States, and it's good for the Saudis, and it's good for the Kuwaitis and the Jordanians. Everyone who has any sense of rational thinking, I cannot imagine wanting the Iranians to have a nuclear device.
Well, there is an agreement about that, but the fear in Israel is, can Israel actually go against a crystal clear American position not to be surprised? What will be the price Israel will have to pay if it decides to attack without an American green light?
Well, two things. First of all, the bigger price that Israel might pay by not taking action to ensure its own safety is far greater than any action that it takes that might offend the president and this current administration. But I also would say that this action, if in fact it's taken, and I'm not saying that it is or even should be, but if it is, I'm convinced that overwhelmingly the American people and the Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, will be very supportive of Israel taking this action, because most of us, maybe unlike the president, believes that Iran is led by a mad dog nut job, a person who is irrational, unlike what General Dempsey said, which was embarrassing that he would say such a thing, that this is a government that acts rationally. You deny the Holocaust and deny that it even happened, and you publicly go to the United States and the UN and say that Israel should be wiped from the face of the earth. That is not the comments of a rational person. So Americans are going to be very supportive of actions if Israel should take them.
So what you're saying is that the Obama administration is actually putting Israel in danger?
I believe they absolutely are putting them in danger. When you publicly pressure a sovereign nation to stand down against its own best interest to defend itself and exercise its sovereign right to do that, you are sending a very unneeded message to the Iranian government that just emboldens them, and it is a very dangerous position to be taking.
You know, what's interesting when we look at the Republican race is it's quite flattering that Israel is such a big issue, but it's also not that clear to us. You know, one can think of many other burning issues that affect the American voters before Israel and the Middle East. So how has it come to be that Israel is such a big thing in this campaign?
Well, most Americans understand, I wish our president did, that the way Iran looks at the United States is that we're the great Satan and Israel is the little Satan. Israel is the target practice. America is the target. So most of us fully understand that Iran's interest in domination does not end with Israel. If it did, maybe Americans would be a little more blasé about it. They shouldn't be because of our incredible bond that we have with Israel. But I think most Americans are not naive about the nature of Iran's government, their statements, their actions, what they've done to their own people. They've murdered their own people in the streets for protesting an election that was rigged. That didn't go over real well. And this is a government, if they will kill their own people, they certainly won't mind killing people of another country, especially people that they don't think should exist in the first place. They call both Israel and the United States the infidels. So that's why all of us have to be very concerned about this mad dog butcher of Tehran getting a nuclear device.
Well, we're speaking to you here in Jerusalem, and by the way, you had very high chances in the polls. Why did you give up and not go on this race?
Well, I know people ask me that every day, but I think a lot of it is that I think that there's just such a toxic atmosphere right now, specifically in the Republican Party. And I would love to say that it's going to be all about ideas and solutions, but unfortunately a lot of it is about just being able to say I'm more angry at the Obama administration than somebody else. That's not what motivates me politically or governmentally. I believe it ought to be about solutions, and I hope we win. I hope we elect a lot of people to Congress and a new president. But it just wasn't the right time for me. Maybe someday it will be the right time.
Mm-hmm. Are you any closer to endorse one of the candidates?
No, there's nobody I'd put a yard sign up for right now. I mean, I know all of them. They're friends. I'll support whoever gets the nomination because I think any of them would be a better president at this point of the game for sure than President Obama has been, both not only for domestic issues, but in light of the action that he's taking on this particular confrontation with Iran. I mean, he's almost taking the Ron Paul position, and I find that absolutely unacceptable.
But you were talking about your friends. Any one of them you think that will get elected stands a chance against Obama and his fundraising?
Well, I think they have a chance. I'm not going to pretend that it's easy because it's tough always to challenge an incumbent president. And this one's going to have an extraordinary blessing of the United States press. They'll do everything they can to make things look good for him, and they'll shred the Republicans. And I think we all understand that. Obama's going to have lots of money. But Obama's got to answer for the fact that the unemployment rate has stayed above 8% when he said that if we spent all this money in the stimulus bill, it would never go above 8%. And then he may have a very challenging difficulty of explaining his position in relationship to Iran, not just because of Israel, but because most Americans believe that whatever is a threat out of Iran is ultimately a threat to the United States and its sovereignty and its security as well.
Well, for the Republicans, it's good news that you're in the media so far, but I was wondering if 2016 is still an option for you.
You know, you never rule anything out for the long term. I'm not making an announcement, but certainly, you know, when people say, would you ever do it? The answer is I very might well do that. But I knew that this was not the good year for me. So I'll help whoever is our nominee, and I hope they get elected. And if they do, I'll help them get reelected in 2016. Okay,
well, in the spirit of these days, you're saying, I'm leaving all the options on the table. Mike Huckabee, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you very much.